Hello everyone, this video is to show off the collisions that I have so far for my game project so I can move on to the next step. I have on this screen that you're looking at the four basic shapes of the game: a point, a line, a circle, and a rectangle, which can be anything. It can be an actual rectangle or it can be a square. The way it works is on this program, the top four objects are ones that I can move. The bottom four objects are ones I cannot move. So I'm going to go ahead and test the top four objects against the bottom four objects. So we'll start with Mr. Circle here. Circle to circle works pretty good. Circle to point works pretty good. And when it flashes red, that's when a collision is detected. Circle to square, even the hard corner seems pretty good. Circle to line, pretty dang good. Right, now I can also push them against my own objects. So like this point here, I can actually push it. Same with the square. Now the line, only the circle can push, because a line is very hard to figure out collisions for. I'll explain that later. So next up is the square. Square against circle. Looks pretty good, especially the corners. Corners are what's the important thing to check with those. Against a point. I had a problem with point earlier, but it looks like I got it fixed. Square. And square, that's good. Line. Like I said, I don't push the lines with anything except the circle. But you can tell it turns red when it collides, and with everything else, I can push the little thing. Push that little dot, push the circle. Alright, next up is the point. Point is pretty simple. It's very hard to collide a point with a point, so I don't expect this to happen. And that's because a point is just one small point in space. But in order for you to see it on the screen, I have to draw it as a square. So I draw it as a 4x4 square. So even though you see a tiny white dot on the screen, the point is actually much smaller than that. So getting them to collide is just not going to happen. I think I even put in the code that if a point collides with a point, to be like, holy shit. Alright, point with a line, same thing. A line is very hard to hit because a line is a one spot in space and a point is one spot in space. So when I draw a line, I have to draw it thicker than it really is. So this line is not actually that thick. It just looks this thick so you can see it. Let's try it against the other objects. Same there. You can push it. You can push it. Push. Push. Alright, we're good. Next up is the line. So like I said, the only one I can really detect real good is circle to line. And it works pretty good. Point. It's very hard to collide, so you're not going to see that. Square, you'll see it, but it won't do any pushing. And line to line, probably not going to happen for the same reason that it didn't collide with a point. Alright. Oh, and I can push the circle up here. Yep. Alright, so that shows off the 2D collisions. Now I'll explain why I'm having a hard time pushing the line. So when it comes to the line, for collision corrections, I know how to figure out which way to push a line, because what I do is I find the closest point on the line and I do collision checks against that to the circle, to the center of the circle, and then I use the vector from the center of the circle to that closest point on the line to determine which way I should push that line, and that works pretty good. But what doesn't work very good is trying to figure out how to know which way to push a square versus a line. Like, because the line can be rotated in any way. It could be, up to down. It could be left to right. It could be slanted like you see here. It could be the opposite slant, etc., etc. So I wasn't sure how to determine which way to push the line if we had a different type of slant. If you are a programmer and you know the answer or a answer on how to determine which way to push a line, I would love to hear that, because even though I doubt I'll ever use line pushing in my game projects, it would be nice just to know how. You know, I like to learn shit. So now point on line is actually very easy to correct. I just move it over 1 pixel and make sure it's not on the line. So point collision is actually not hard to do. I've already coded it. It's very hard to collide a point with a line, so I can't prove it that it works. But point to line does work. Line to line, I have the same problem. I can detect when they collide. I have the same problem as the square, that is. I can detect when 2 lines collide, but I am not sure how to correct a line pushing a line, because I don't know if the lines are, parallel like these two and just on top of it. Well, actually, that'd just be the same damn line. Or if they're like what's it called? Opposite slopes of each other, etc., etc. I don't know, because I don't know the way that the lines intersect. I do not know how to correct those lines from intersecting without just moving it drastically, and I'd rather not do that. And also, line intersecting line, I don't actually intend to use any kind of correction like that in my game projects. At least I don't think I would, but it would be nice to know how if anyone does. So if anyone knows how to do line colliding with line correction or square colliding with line correction, I would love to hear that. Okay, thank you very much for watching, guys. Have a good one.